December 21st, 2025, Caribbean Sea. The 318,000-ton oil tanker Bella 1 suddenly panics and bolts in desperation, engines roaring as it makes a sharp U-turn to flee from the approaching U.S. Coast Guard cutter. This is a high-stakes, heart-pounding transatlantic chase. In sheer panic, the crew sloppily paints a crude Russian flag on the hull, like a criminal slapping a fake police sticker on his getaway car. Moscow growls, "Touch it, and it's war with Russia!" Big mistake. By New Year's 2026, the tanker, now frantically renamed Marinara, is a lonely, humiliated wreck drifting in the North Atlantic, its oil money lifeline cut forever. This is how America made Putin's dark fleet run scared. And Russia blinked first. 5 a.m., the Caribbean Sea. While the world sleeps, the USCGC Bertholf is hunting a ghost. It's a surgical operation aimed at the jugular of the Kremlin's war machine. We're talking about a 4 18-foot Legend-class national security cutter, 500 tons of American steel designed for one thing: high-stakes interdiction. The target, the Bella 1. A massive 318,000-ton rusted behemoth that serves as Putin's offshore bank account. Inside that hull are 2 million barrels of illicit oil. If this cargo reaches its destination, it's a $100 million shot in the arm for the hardware-pounding Ukraine. If the Bertholf stops it, a major artery of Russia's financial empire collapses. The math of this chase is almost insulting. Imagine a 23-year-old rust bucket trying to outrun a high-tech Ferrari across the Atlantic. The Bertholf screams through 15-foot swells at 28 knots while the tanker sluggishly chugs at a mere 12. But here's the detail that makes this a masterpiece of strategic intimidation. The Bertholf doesn't just see, it knows. Its brain, the ANSPS-75 air search radar, scans the horizon for 200 nautical miles, tracking up to 200 targets simultaneously. 25,000 feet above a P-8 Poseidon acts as the eye in the sky, dropping sonobuoys that turn the ocean into a digital grid. The Russians are panicking. They've killed their AIS transponder, hoping to vanish from the public map. They think the thick morning fog is their shield. Big mistake. To the Bertholf, sensors hiding on the open ocean is like trying to hide a bonfire in a library. However, you can't just seize a ship of this size without a bulletproof legal reason. Under the UNCLOS laws of the sea, the Americans need to prove this vessel is stateless. As the Bertholf closes the gap to 1,000 yards, the tension hits a breaking point. On the tanker's deck, sailors are frantically slopping paint onto the hull, trying to draw a crude Russian flag, a desperate middle finger plea for sovereign protection. Moscow is already growling over the long-range radio, "Touch this ship, and you touch Russia." It is a geopolitical tinderbox. If you were sitting in the commander's chair on the Bertholf with the spray hitting the glass and the legal red tape tightening, would you launch the boarding team now and risk a global incident? Or would you wait for this ghost ship to make a fatal error? Stay focused, because how this ends is a masterclass in making the grizzly blink first. Imagine this: you're the captain of the Bella 1 and you've just pulled off what you think is a masterstroke. You reach for the bridge console, flip a switch, and click, your AIS transponder goes dead. On every public tracking map from London to Singapore, your 318,000-ton steel giant simply vanishes. To the Russian sailors on board, they've just become ghosts. They honestly believe that by turning off their digital beacon, they've outsmarted the most advanced maritime surveillance network on the planet. It's like a child covering their eyes and thinking they've become invisible. Tragically for Moscow, the U.S. Navy doesn't need your permission to see you. While the Russians are high-fiving in the dark, a constellation of SAR satellites is looking straight through the storm clouds. This is synthetic aperture radar, a technology that doesn't need sunlight or a transponder signal. It bounces microwave pulses off the ocean surface, creating a high-resolution Polaroid of the sea. While the Bella 1 is trying to hide in the shadows, the Americans are watching a 1,000-foot-long silver streak carving through the waves in real time. However, just seeing a ship isn't enough to freeze Putin's bank account. To legally seize a vessel of this magnitude, you don't just need a picture, you need a fingerprint. This is where the hunt turns into a masterclass in high-tech stalking. A P-8 Poseidon, the world's most lethal hunting aircraft, screams across the flight path of the tanker at low altitude. The crew isn't there to drop a torpedo. They're there to plant a sonic garden. They eject a string of sonobuoys into the path of the Bella 1. These are ultra-sensitive underwater microphones that float on the surface, dangling hydrophones hundreds of feet into the deep. Every ship has a unique acoustic signature. The way those massive propellers churn the water, the specific vibration of a 23-year-old engine, it creates a mechanical heartbeat that is impossible to fake. The moment the Bella 1 passes over that sonic garden, its unique voice is recorded, digitized, and uploaded to a massive AI database. Now, the U.S. Navy doesn't just see a ship, they have the Bella 1's DNA. But how do you stalk a ghost across an entire ocean without being detected? The answer isn't a chase, it's a digital dragnet. The U.S. Navy activates the SOSUS network, a massive Cold War-era underwater ear upgraded with cutting-edge AI. Combined with the P-8's sonic garden of sonobuoys, they create a 500-mile acoustic tripwire. No matter how much the Russians kill their radar or hide in the storm, the unique low-frequency thrum of that 23-year-old propeller is screaming into the American sensors. The U.S. doesn't need to stay close. They've turned the entire North Atlantic into a giant invisible microphone. They aren't following the Bella 1. They are waiting for it to walk into its own grave. These drones move at less than 10 knots, meaning they'd never win a race. Instead, the U.S. uses the AI data from the P-8 to predict the Bella 1's exact route 48 hours in advance. They drop the Remus 300 UUV directly in the tanker's path, thousands of miles away from where the ghost thinks it's safe. It is a silent, autonomous predator sitting directly beneath the hull, listening to every move the Russian captain makes. While the Grizzly in Moscow is burning millions of dollars in fuel for a zigzagging escape, the U.S. is just sitting back and letting the ocean's natural current do the work. As the chase pushes deeper into the unforgiving waters of the North Atlantic, the atmosphere inside the Bella 1 shifts from celebration to pure, unadulterated paranoia. The Russian captain realizes that despite killing his AIS and hiding in the fog, the American shadow hasn't moved an inch. He is desperate. He starts pushing his 23-year-old engines to the red line, forcing the 300,000-ton behemoth into a series of violent, bone-jarring zigzags. It's like watching a skyscraper try to dodge a swarm of bees. This zigzag maneuver is straight out of the Soviet naval playbook. By constantly changing heading, the Russians hope to break the lock of any intercept calculation. But there's a massive problem with this logic physics. Every time a ship that size turns, it loses momentum and burns an ocean of fuel. The Bella 1 is essentially bleeding money just to stay in the same place. Then Moscow decides to escalate. Out of the gray mist, a Russian Project 20380 corvette, the Staragushchi, appears on the horizon. This is a high-tech bodyguard bristling with Firk-2 radar and missiles. Its mission to act as a physical and electronic shield for the tanker. Suddenly, the Bertholf's Combat Information Center erupts in warning lights. The Russian corvette activates its powerful electronic warfare suite, flooding the area with high-intensity noise. On the American radar screens, the clear silver streak of the Bella 1 dissolves into a chaotic mess of static and ghost echoes. For a heart-stopping moment, the unthinkable happens. The Americans lose the track. In the middle of a transatlantic gale with 30-knot winds and waves the size of houses, the ghost ship has effectively vanished into an electronic black hole. The Russian crew is likely cheering, thinking they finally blinded the Eagle. But this is where the U.S. Navy reveals why they don't play the same game as everyone else. If you were the commander of the Bertholf and your primary radar just went blind, would you panic and speed blindly into the storm? Or would you trust a machine that's already 3 steps ahead of you? The Americans chose the machine. While the Russian corvette is busy screaming electronic noise at the Bertholf, it completely ignores the silent sonic net the U.S. planted days ago. Remember those autonomous Remus 300 UUV drones sitting under the waves? They don't use radar. They use acoustic sensors that are completely immune to radio frequency jamming. The Bertholf's AI, a system with the processing power of 10 NVIDIA RTX 4090s, takes the intermittent sonar pings from the drones and merges them with historical ship behavior patterns. It realizes the Bella 1 isn't just zigzagging, it's following the edge of the Gulf Stream to use the thermal layers to hide its engine noise. The AI doesn't just guess where the tanker is, it calculates exactly where it has to be in 60 minutes. While the Russians are burning millions of dollars in high-grade fuel to maintain their shield, the US is simply notching the jamming. Tragically for the Kremlin, its high-tech corvette is now acting as a giant neon sign for the US Navy. By jamming the Bertholf, the Russians have inadvertently confirmed exactly where their precious cargo is hiding. It's the ultimate geopolitical self-own. By the end of day 6, the Bella 1 is exhausted, its engines are screaming for mercy, and its bodyguard has revealed the secret it was meant to protect. Moscow is running out of tricks, and the Americans are about to turn the Dark Fleet's own pride against them. Stay focused, because day 7 is when the Russians reach for a bucket of paint and the world starts laughing. As the chase enters its second week, the situation on the high seas shifts from a technical pursuit to a scene of pure, desperate theater. Desperate to claim sovereign protection, Russian sailors are spotted hanging over the side, slopping white, blue, and red paint onto the rusted hull. It's a pathetic sight. The lines are crooked and the colors are bleeding into the sea. High above the P-8 Poseidon's camera, a system with the zoom power of a space telescope is live-streaming the entire art project in 4K. The US Navy isn't just watching. They're building a digital evidence locker that proves this sovereign Russian vessel was just a nameless ghost ship 5 minutes ago. Then the Bertholf decides the polite observation period is over. The 4 500-ton cutter surges through 20-foot swells, closing the gap from a mile to just 500 feet. This is the danger zone. The radio crackles with a cold American command: Vessel Bella 1, heave to and prepare for boarding. Moscow's escort corvette, the Staragushi, loses its mind. It veers dangerously close to the Bertholf's bow, attempting a bumping maneuver to force the Americans to break off. It's a high-speed game of chicken in a freezing gale. The Russian captain is screaming over the radio about acts of war, while his ship zigzags like a panicked animal. But the Americans don't blink. While the Russian corvette is burning fuel and nerves, the Bertholf uses AI-assisted thrusters to hold its position with the precision of a master surgeon. One ship is a chaotic mess of iron and ego. The other is a $700 million predator that refuses to move. The Grizzly in Moscow is roaring for a fight, but the Eagle is just recording every mistake. As the new year approaches, the Bella 1 isn't a ship anymore, it's a cornered target. Stay with me, because the final move isn't a shot across the bow, it's a legal checkmate that leaves Putin's oil fleet frozen in its tracks. As the calendar bleeds into the final days of 2025, the Atlantic Ocean transforms into a freezing gray purgatory. We are no longer in the sunny Caribbean. We are entering the North Atlantic kill zone near Greenland and Iceland. Inside the Bella 1, now frantically being renamed the Marinara in the official Russian registry, the atmosphere is one of pure, shivering terror. The Russian sailors are exhausted. They've been running for 12 days straight. Their engines are screaming, vibrating so violently that the rivets in the hull are beginning to weep. They look out their frost-covered windows and see the USCGC Bertholf still there, sitting on their shoulder like an inescapable nightmare. This is where the psychological warfare turns into a physical street fight. Moscow, realizing their paint and pray strategy, failed issues a final desperate command to the escort corvette, the Staragushi. End this, now. The Russian corvette, a high-tech warship, suddenly banks hard, its hull groaning as it cuts directly across the Bertholf's bow at 27 knots. This is bumping on the edge of suicide. If the ships collide in these 30-foot swells, they both go down in minutes. It's a game of chicken where the loser gets a watery grave. On the bridge of the Bertholf, the American commander is staring down the Russian hull just 100 feet away. You can hear the roar of the Russian engines over the howling wind. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. The Russian captain is hoping the Americans will flinch, that they will break off the chase to avoid a disaster. But the Bertholf isn't just a ship. It's an extension of an AI-driven network. While the Russian captain is manually steering his vessel with white knuckles and sweat, the American cutter is being micro-adjusted by an autonomous flight control system. It's the maritime version of a Tesla Plaid in insane mode. The Bertholf dances through the swells, maintaining its position with a precision that borders on the supernatural. Every time the Russian corvette tries to push, the Bertholf pivots, stays on station, and records the entire act of aggression in 4K for the UN to see. Then comes the checkmate move from the Kremlin. In a frantic midnight update to the Russian Maritime Register, the ship is officially renamed Marinara. They think they've won. They think by giving it an official Russian name and a government registry, they've made it untouchable sovereign territory. Tragically for Putin, he just walked right into the most expensive trap in history. By officially claiming the ship, Russia has just admitted to the entire world that they own the Dark Fleet. They've stripped away their own plausible deniability. The U.S. Navy realizes that boarding the ship now would mean an actual war, something Moscow is baiting them into. So the Americans do something even more devastating. They stop. The Bertholf throttles back, letting the Marinara pull ahead into the freezing fog of the North Atlantic. For a moment, the Russian crew is cheering. They think they've escaped. They think they've beaten the Americans. But the cheering stops when a catastrophic roar echoes from the bowels of the ship. That 23-year-old diesel engine, pushed to its absolute red line for 14 days of violent high-speed zigzagging through freezing swells, has finally surrendered. The main crankshaft snaps with the force of an explosion, and the engine room is engulfed in thick black smoke. The Americans didn't need to run them out of fuel. They simply forced the Grizzly to run until its own heart burst from the strain. The 300,000-ton behemoth is now a dead, shivering weight. The tanker is thousands of miles from any friendly port, and because it is now officially a sanctioned Russian vessel, no commercial tugboat or port in Iceland or Greenland will touch it. On January 1st, 2026, as the world celebrates the new year, the Marinara is sitting dead in the water in the middle of a sub-zero gale. Its engines are silent, its heaters are off. The $100 million worth of oil in its belly is now a frozen, useless weight. Russia didn't just lose the ship, they lost the face. They spent millions on a high-tech escort, they exposed their secret fleet to the world, and in the end they were left with a 300,000-ton steel iceberg that no one will help. This is the ultimate self-own. The U.S. Navy didn't need to fire a single torpedo to win. They used physics AI and the cold reality of international law to turn Putin's Dark Fleet into a lonely, humiliated wreck. The Grizzly didn't just blink. It crawled back into its cave, shivering and penniless. So, here's the question for you. Was the $100 million gamble worth the humiliation? Or did Russia just prove that in the modern world, high-tech brains will always beat low-tech brawn-type brains, or brawn, in the comments below, and let's see who really won this New Year's showdown. See you in the next breakdown.